He's a forgiving God.
That's
Psalm 103 says he forgives all our iniquities. He heals all our diseases. Amen?
Amen.
Let's continue reading in Joshua, the 2nd chapter, verse 8. Now before they lay down, she came up to them on the roof and said to the men, I know that the Lord has given you the land, that the terror of you has fallen on us, and that all the inhabitants of the land are faint-hearted because of you. For we have heard how the Lord dried up the water of the Red Sea for you when you came out of Egypt, and what you did to the 2 kings of the Amorites who were on the other side of Jordan, Sihon and Og, whom you utterly destroyed. And as soon as we heard these things, our hearts melted. Neither did there remain any more courage in anyone because of you. For the Lord your God, he is God,
yes,
in heaven above and on the earth beneath.
Amen.
See, Rahab and her people, they had heard about the God of the Israelites. Amen. She had heard about the victories that God had won for his people. She had heard how God dried up the Red Sea so they could pass over on dry land. She had heard how God had kept them and provided for them in the wilderness for 40 years.
Yes,
she had heard how God had given them the victory over the 2 kings. See, that's why your testimony is so important. Amen? See, people need to hear what God is doing in your life. If God been good to you, you need to tell somebody.
Amen.
Amen? If he healed your body, testify.
Amen.
Glory be to God. If he showed up with provisions when you didn't know how you was going to pay your bills, you need to tell somebody. Amen. Somebody might be losing hope. They might not know what to do. And you can come up and tell them what God did in your life, and he's no respecter of persons. What he did for me, he'll do for you. Amen?
Amen.
Glory be to God. Well, Rahab had heard about the God of Israel, and she was convinced that their God was the one true God. Let's continue reading Joshua 2:12 through 18. Rahab is still talking to the 2 spies here. Now therefore I beg you, swear to me by the Lord, since I have shown you kindness, that you also will show kindness to my father's house and give me a true token. And spare my father, my mother, my brother, my sisters, and all that they have, and deliver our lives from death. So the men answered her, our lives for yours, if none of you tell this business of ours. And it shall be, when the Lord has given us the land, that we will deal kindly and truly with you. Verse 15. Then she let them down by a rope through the window, for her house was on the city wall. She dwelt on the wall. And she said to them, get to the mountains, lest the pursuers meet you. Hide there 3 days until the pursuers have returned. Afterward you may go your way. So the men said to her, we will be blameless of this oath of yours, which you have made us swear, unless, when we come into the land, you bind this line of scarlet cord in the window through which you let us down, and unless you bring your father, your mother, your brothers, and all your father's household to your own home. Now, the 2 spies that Joshua sent out was telling Rahab, we will take care of you, but you make sure everybody's in one place. We ain't going to be running all over Jericho looking for your kinfolk. Have everybody and all that you have in this house, and we will save you from destruction. Since Rahab had protected the spies and hid them in her house, she asked them to reward her and her family by sparing them. Most people would assume that Rahab, who was a pagan and a prostitute, would never be interested in God. Rahab was willing to give up her sinful life in order to obey God and live with his people. She had faith in the God of Israel, who she had only heard about. Glory be to God. But faith comes out by hearing. She had heard of his mighty deliverance of the Israelites, and she was able to see that Jericho was going to be destroyed. She knew they were coming back to take the city, so she planned for the safety of her family. And that's what we need to do. We need to be planning for the safety of our family. When we see that they're in darkness, we need to share the gospel with them. Amen?
Amen.
Throughout the Bible, we see women that stood in the gap for their people. Remember, we already talked about Abigail, who pleaded with David not to destroy her people because her foolish husband, Nabal, refused to give David's men some food. We talked about Deborah, who led her people to victory in the battle against Jabin and Sisera. We talked about Esther, who went to the king and stood in the gap for her people and said, if I perish, I perish. These women all played a major role in protecting their people. All of these women heard from God. Amen. You can't just hear, you got to obey.
Right.
And God gave them the victory. Now the spies promised to protect Rahab if she tied a red cord in her window and had all her family in the house when they returned. When the way was clear, Rahab let the spies down by a rope, and she told them, hide in the hills for 3 days, and then after 3 days you can go your way. And the men would be on stop searching for them by 3 days. So let's look at what happened to Jericho. Let's look at Joshua 6, verses 1 through 5. Glory be to God. Joshua 6, 1 through 5. If you dare say amen.
Amen.
Now Jericho was securely shut up because of the children of Israel. None went out and none came in. And the Lord said to Joshua, see, I have given Jericho into your hand, its king and the mighty men of valor. See, God told Joshua, I have given you the city. He told him that 40 years earlier. Joshua and Caleb were the only two that believed, and he's telling Joshua now that your enemy is already defeated. Now, I know Joshua had some confidence, amen,